what I've chosen is some manipulatives that are not TouchMath based, but based upon TouchMath concepts. So, TouchMath follows the CRA continuum, transitioning kids from concrete to representational to abstract. As I mentioned, my issue when I was in school was that they transitioned me too quickly to abstract. I hadn't gotten the concrete or the representational solid. So by the time they moved me to algebra, I was like, I don't know, X, Y, Z, A, B, C. It really didn't, there was nothing there for me to grab onto. And so that's what TouchMath does essentially, is make sure that the students can use the numeral as a manipulative to root them in that concrete and representational before moving them to abstract. One of the most frequently asked questions that we get is, how do I know where to start them? And how do I know when it's time for them to move on? Well, the first thing I always say is, in the TouchMath curriculum kits, it is explicitly spelled out for you where you do the pre-tests, where it points out where the students should be, what the milestones are, and when to transition them out. So, but being that some of you don't have the curriculum kits, my best answer is, based on everything that you already know about your students, you're halfway through the year at this point. So you really do know, okay, this kid does not get abstract. So we're going to back up one step to the representational. And then if they're not at representation, then we're going to back up to concrete. And so the concrete, just generally speaking, we may actually use the apple, right? We'll have apples, we'll have them go around and collect apples, or maybe they're using balls, something physical in their hands. The representational would be pictures of balls or pictures of apples. And then the abstract, of course, is when we remove that. So in what I'm going to share with you today, I wanted to make sure that I exposed you to some of the TouchMath stuff, but also some stuff that you probably just have in your classroom. So I am going to, let's see, I've got some. Oh, I've closed everything. I was trying to close on my window so when I share, you wouldn't see everything, but apparently I just closed everything. Here we go. And I have some notes for myself. So these are the top 8. What I tried to do was choose 2 from pre-K, 2 examples from kindergarten, 2 examples from 1st grade, and 2 examples from 2nd grade. Of course, you can modify as needed. So my first example would be if you're, say your objective is to help students count from 1 to 10, or to show one-to-one correspondence from the numeral to the object to the quantity, and to recognize quantities 1 through 10. So in this case, there is an activity in the kit that recommends that we use modeling clay, and this is pre-K, pipe cleaners, and raisins. Okay, I didn't have raisins. I have cranberries, dried cranberries. And so with this, keep in mind that our pre-K curriculum it comes with activity mats, and it is thematic. So this is a science theme about space. And so what we would do is have the students take the modeling clay, turn it into a ball. This represents the sun. And then they're going to put the pipe cleaners, 8 of them, because there are 8 planets that revolve around the sun. So then they can put these in, and to whatever degree they need support or help, or if these need to be shorter. I thought about that because when we put the raisins on, I've only got 4 so far, so we might need a bigger ball of modeling clay. I've got 4 in here. And then we take our raisins and put the 8 raisins on the ends of on the other end of the pipe cleaners. I don't do well talking and thinking at the same time. So now we're just going to ask them, imagine I've got 8 on here, and it looks more like a spaceman than a model of the space. So now we're just counting the planets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That gets them in the habit of hearing the way that we count our touch points. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because as we go through the touch points and advance through the grade levels, some of the numerals, those of you who have the numerals already, the touch numerals, there are double touch points. And we count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So again, just a fun way. This does correspond to an activity mat that is directly in the pre-K curriculum. There are dozens and dozens of these kinds of activities that make learning fun, make math fun, right? Something we never hear, math and fun in the same sentence, but it will absolutely make math fun for our students. Boys and girls love space, so we've chosen themes that are applicable to all genders, or we'll just say gender neutral in that case. So we want to make sure that we've done that. So that's modeling clay, pipe cleaners, and raisins. Don't need anything from TouchMath except the curriculum in that case. But if you think about some of the other things you have laying around that you could use to show that one-to-one correspondence and start helping students listen for the touch points. The next thing that I have here are the touch shapes. Now, these are TouchMath specific manipulatives. They come in a box. This is where it starts to get messy. So here there are 6 shapes, 6 colors, and 3 sizes: small, medium, and large. Blue, green, red, orange, purple, and yellow. You've got circles, hexagons, rectangles, rhombuses, or is it rhombi? Rhombuses. Square and triangles, squares and triangles. So what this is going with that space theme is having the students use the shapes to create a spaceship. So this is this is the large square, and imagine they'd have this laying on they'd have these laying on their desk. They've got a large square, and now they could put these 2 squares together. And I was thinking, what does a spaceship even look like? What goes at the bottom? I think we need some wings, and then we could use some triangles to go out there. But now we're going to have them count the number of squares, right? Count the number of triangles. So in this case, if we put some of the smaller triangles down below, I haven't seen a spaceship in a while. Maybe we've got, where would I put those triangles? I don't know, somewhere. But we could count the number of squares, count the number of triangles. If you don't have these touch points, you could easily, I'm sure you have, you may already have some cutouts, right? Construction paper cutouts. Now the students can glue these together, put it on a piece of construction paper, hang them on the walls, and identify, write the number. So now the numerals will be associated, 2 squares and 1 triangle. So again, this is just making math tangible, concrete, and even this is more of a representation of what a spaceship would be using the TouchMath shapes. I think I pointed out here, again, we have some smaller ones. I hope that's not too loud coming through there. But now I have the smaller ones. You could use at your discretion if they needed to all be the same color, if you wanted the squares to all be the same color, and the triangles, again, depending on the needs of your students. But they do come in 8 different colors and 3 different sizes, and all of those different kinds of shapes there. And that would be helping your students, your pre-K students, basically just count and answer how many, answer that question, how many. And this is coming from the standards-based curriculum. So I'm pulling directly from those common core state standards that would be associated for pre-K. So now moving on to kindergarten. For kindergarten, we're going to use, I think it's a good time of year to use pumpkin seeds. And I was amazed that when I opened the pumpkin seeds, they really do smell like pumpkin. I don't know why I thought they would smell like something different, but they do smell like pumpkins. So I've got pumpkin seeds and the touch point numerals. So this card has the numerals on it, and then the touch points, the way that we read them. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then we take them through all of the touch points. So they could have this card. It is perforated, so we could tear the cards apart. But I think for kindergarten, I would prefer for them all to be on one card. I would have the students roll the dice, roll 1 die, and then once that number, if it comes up as a number 2, you have them find the number 2 and then place 2 pumpkin seeds on the numeral where the touch points are. So the touch points are indicated on the numeral. Hopefully that's not backwards for you. So they can just, while this is laying on their desk, they can just put this on there on the table. They can just put it on the 2 there or on the 1, whatever the case may be, depending on how the die rolled. But again, if they're more advanced, you might have them take these apart, now shuffle them. So now they've got to search through for the number when it's called. This is something that you could do. You roll the die and call the number, or they're in small groups or pairs working together to do this. So there's any number of ways to do this, but essentially what we want them to do is to be able to count, read, and write the numerals. We want them to be able to match the numeral with sets of objects. Applying the touch points and the touch patterns as we've been going through them. And then, of course, there are some literacy connections that are suggested in the curriculum for pumpkins. There's a book called How Many Seeds in a Pumpkin? They could then bake the pumpkin for snacks. These are all extension activities that are listed in the curriculum. I am not that smart. I didn't make all this up. I just read through the curriculum to see what ideas I thought would be cool. So those are just some neat ways to then extend math into the real world, right? Making those real world I can't say it, real world connections for them. I had another thought there as well that it will also help with pointing out that 2, 3 is greater than 2. If these were laid out on a number line, right? The higher you go, you see the more you have, the more pumpkin seeds they have. If they don't remove the pumpkin seeds from the 2 and then they just start adding, now they're at a place where they may be able to compare the quantities. So again, just continuing to grow from there. So now we're going to move on to a first grade example. I love this example. So using magazines, I have 2 kinds of magazines in my house. I have Ulta magazine, because this is where I get my hair product, and I have travel magazines. So with this, if our students have scissors, glue, construction paper, and you bring in some old magazines, or you already have some old magazines, have them go through. We want them at this point to start counting orally forward and backward using the CRA to associate objects, pictures, and numbers, and then again, transfer to the real world. So we're going to go through, I would instruct the students to go through and find an example of 4 of something. And here are 4 fingernail polishes. Now we could have them count them out individually. I just left them all there together. It's an example of 3 of something, and there's 3 lip glosses. And, so for each numeral on the numeral cards, 1 through 9, or wherever they are at this point, and definitely in first grade, this is a first grade example, they should be able to get to a lot more than that. But here's an example of 5 eyeshadows. So they just go through, cut these out, glue them onto a piece of construction paper, and then we want them to write the numeral next to it and put the touch points on the numeral. So now we've got the touch points, we've got the numeral, and we've got essentially the abstract, right? We're working them through the whole process, although this is also representational, so we're transitioning. It's not always clear. It's not, sometimes the lines get blurred, and that's what we want. We can't always be cut and dry. We want to get to a place where they don't need any of this, and that they can go to abstract. And when we say that the numeral is abstract, I just want to be clear, because I didn't understand this myself at first. Kids learn how to read. They see letters all the time. Numbers, that's a new thing. It's a 3 is just a squiggly line, right? It doesn't have meaning until it's associated with a quantity. And so that's why we say that the numeral really is an abstract. If I showed you the numeral 3 in Pashti, you wouldn't know what it was. It's just this thing, right? That's what our kids see when we introduce numerals for the first time. And that's why it's so important that we can associate it with something that is more concrete for them. So let's see here. Okay, beads and strings. So another activity in first grade would be, and this goes with activity sheets 32 on. In the first grade curriculum, it's first grade, third unit, second module. Um, each activity sheet talks about representing place value and using bundles to represent tens. So what I've got here is a string with 10 beads on it. So what you could, these are their number lines, right? They can go through this. This is very concrete for them, using these beads to slide numbers up and down the number line. We can do subtraction, we can do addition, we can do place value. I have one here that fell. So now we've got two groups of 10. How many does that represent? And they can count these out individually. I thought I put 10, but maybe I put 12 or 6, 8, 10. Yes, I just tied the knot different. So again, a great way, has nothing to do with TouchMath in the sense that I'm not asking you to buy anything else. Use what you already have. Let me ask, are you doing anything like this with something other than string and beads? Anybody? Okay. All right, so there's a new idea. I got those at the dollar store. Family Dollars, the Dollar Tree. So they really were a dollar, you know, Dollar General. They go high on you sometimes. All right. So next, sorry, I got a hair in my eye here. We have index cards. I love index cards. I don't know what it is about index cards. I love it in real life. I love it as a teacher. I love index cards. You can do so much. Again, this is, so now we're in second grade here. So I started out in second grade, second unit, module 2, activity sheet 29. There are 3 different ways to use activity sheet number 29 in this particular kit. You can use it for remediation, you can use it for practice, and you can use it as a challenge activity. So activity sheet 29, and they're all using index cards. So from a remediation standpoint, you could just have the students write on the front of their card the numeral, and with the touch point, with markers or pen or whatever the case, and on the back write it out longhand, write the name on the back and the number, the numeral on the front, and go 1 through however many. Maybe you want to do 1 through, I think this unit is calling for 1200. I don't know if you want 1200, but let's do 1 through 25. And now when they go home, they have their own flashcards, and they're quizzing themselves constantly using these flashcards on the front, flipping it over. Maybe, and again, having the touch points on there so that they can associate the numeral with the touch points, as well as with the word itself, the name of the numeral. So again, encourage them to practice daily with their flashcards. I use flashcards for everything. Anytime I need to learn something, I still use flashcards. From a practice perspective, maybe they don't need remediation and they're not quite ready for challenge, but you just want them practicing. Activity sheet 29 says write the numbers for 11 through 19 on the front of index cards. So they're working together in pairs, and they've written the numeral on the front of the card for 11 through 19, and they shuffle them out of order. One partner has to determine which one is out of order. So they're going to shuffle them, put them on the table, and now they can reshuffle. But it's just one that is placed out of order. Again, depending on their level of how advanced they are, or their level of need. So we can shuffle them, put them in order. They can just take one, place it out of order, and the other student has to decide which one is out of order. Now, from a challenge perspective, same activity sheet, again, having the students write the number names for 11 through 90 on the index cards. Now they're in pairs again, they're shuffling their cards face down in a stack, and then each partner draws a card and places it in the correct location on a grid, similar to a hundreds chart. Right. So now this is taking it one step further. They're pulling it randomly, and now they have to place it in the appropriate location on a number grid. Okay. So 3 ways to use index cards on one activity sheet in the kit. So just imagine, how many things you can do with one activity sheet throughout the kit. Another one for second grade. This is if we want them to apply basic addition facts in finding 3-digit sums that require regrouping. I'm going to go back to my um, my store flyer or my what's this called? Brochure. I don't know what it's called. I can't think straight. um, it's funny how when my brain is working on one thing that is very, left brained, and it's like, okay, now I got to pull something from the right and it's not there. I can't find it. So anyway, basically what we're going to do is ask them to find 2 items in here, the prices of 2 items that have 3 digits, and they're going to calculate the cost of those pairs of items. Now in here, I've got some high priced items, of course. So maybe a store flyer from the grocery store, and they're looking at the things that they like. Maybe I've seen parents who, at around the holidays, their kids can go through and pick things that they want for the holidays. They create a wish list or a list for Santa or whatever the case may be. And so using some of those holiday flyers may be appropriate. But at any rate, the idea is to have the students go through and create a table of items that have 3 digits. And then they are going to find the cost of 2 of those items together. So maybe they find a list of 4 things. We want them to add 2 of them together. They find a list of 6 things, add them together. So essentially, again, what we want them to do, the objective here would be to apply basic addition facts to find 3-digit sums. And I'm taking long here. So oh wait, that might have been it. That was the last one. One for the road would be an atlas, using an atlas to discuss distances between cities that are important to the students. So maybe their grandparents live in one city and they live in another city. So finding the distance between those 2 cities. Again, transferring math concepts to everyday activities is exciting for them. Then they can share their experience with the class. So my grandparents live, my mother lives in North Carolina. I live here in Georgia, so I can talk about those kinds of things and sharing myself with the class and building community. So those are I think I had 8 there. Those are my 8 tips for using manipulatives, both TouchMath manipulatives, as well as just things that you may have in your classroom.